A LiSNTR production.
Hi, Natarsha Belling with you and welcome to the afternoon edition of The Briefing. Coming up in our deep dive, it's one of the biggest bombshells to rock Formula One history. Red Bull this week sacking its team principal Christian Horner after 20 years. The F1 powerhouse was plagued by plenty of scandals, so what was behind his controversial departure and what does it mean for the billion-dollar industry? But first, let's check the afternoon headlines this Friday, the 11th of July. US President Donald Trump has chosen a former Sydney councillor to become the US ambassador to Malaysia. Nick Adams has built a large MAGA following after moving to the US and is also a self-styled alpha male and cultural thought leader. The former deputy mayor, who once proposed banning pigeons to prevent the spread of bird flu, was reportedly suspended by the Liberal Party in 2009 after he verbally abused a reporter. He claimed he quit. President Trump has described the 40-year-old as an incredible patriot. The former Australian releasing this message on social media, saying he is honoured to receive the US leader's nomination.
Today, duty has called me to serve my country overseas, not in the uniform of combat, but armed with the pen of diplomacy.
Meantime, the opposition is asking for more information after it was revealed our ambassador to the US, Kevin Rudd, had a private sit-down meeting with Donald Trump at his Florida golf resort in January. The revelation has sparked political backlash, with the coalition saying Anthony Albanese should have been the one at the meeting. It comes as our Prime Minister flies out for high-level meetings in China as he continues to wait for a face-to-face meeting with President Trump. Authorities are now focusing on the abandoned van of missing German backpacker Carolina Wilga. Her van was found bogged in a nature reserve about 35 kilometres from any established tracks in WA's remote outback. The 26-year-old has been missing for 2 weeks, but police say there's no evidence of foul play. And Jane Birkin's original Hermès bag has sold for a record 15.2 million Australian dollars at auction. It's the most expensive fashion accessory ever sold at auction in Europe. The prototype, marking the birth of the infamous Birkin, was created for British-born singer and actor Jane Birkin. Now it's time to get into our deep dive on the sacking of Red Bull team principal Christian Horner. The shock departure comes after years of tensions within the team, including allegations of inappropriate behaviour and a strained relationship with star driver Max Verstappen and his father. To unpack all the on-track and off-track dramas, we're joined by sports broadcaster and host of listeners' Rusty's Garage, Greg Rust. Rusty, thanks so much for joining us. This is such a huge story right now, making headlines right around the world. Biggest story in decades, one may argue, in F1 world. Tell us, who is Christian Horner?
Christian Horner is a former racer whose talents on the other side of the pit wall are, absolutely world class. In about the mid-2000s, he helped Red Bull establish this team. They basically acquired a struggling or a minnow outfit, and he built it into this absolute powerhouse that it is today. Over 1,000 staff, multiple championship wins as constructors and drivers, 4 straight with Sebastian Vettel, 4 in there for Max Verstappen at the moment. Significant race wins for Australia's Mark Webber at places like Monaco. Daniel Ricciardo's been a winner for them as well. And Christian he is the longest serving team principal currently on the grid up until his unfortunate departure in recent days.
So, Rusty, in regards to putting it in perspective, how much of a powerhouse is Christian Horner in the F1 world?
Well, I mean, as I understand it, although he's departed the race team, I think there's a little bit of detail we probably need to understand here, Tash, and I think he's been sort of retained by the broader company, but he won't work for the race team as such anymore. And that's a clever thing because there's a lot of IP upstairs that he has there. Whatever you think of Christian Horner, he's going to be an asset for another team on the grid if someone were to poach him, if he were to entertain the idea of jumping ship and going somewhere else, because he knows how to assemble a big outfit like that and make it into a winning, pardon the pun, machine. There are many parts in all of that, many people in all of that, but the experience that he's had over the past 20 years, I mean, winning world championships, constructors' titles and so on, that's a huge, huge asset.
Let's talk about in the workspace, what makes him so, or what did make him so brilliant?
They talk about Formula One, Tash, being the Piranha Club. So aside of what we see, and it's absolutely box office at the moment in the wake of the F1 movie that Brad Pitt is, starring in and doing some amazing things with, what Drive to Survive has done over the past 7 or so years. It has taken the sport into this space that sports fans, everyday people that may never have followed motor racing are suddenly caught up in the hype of it all. So it's a huge, huge sport at the moment. So he's become, as a result of Drive to Survive, a household name. He's established himself as being very capable in that political space that I opened this comment with, what they call the Piranha Club. I mean, it's a brutal arena, if you will, that paddock and pit lane. He's a survivor of that and has been up until recently through some very tough moments. So what he does in the wake of this, I don't know. Does he kind of call time on Formula One altogether? Perhaps you have to look at this and say, well, if I do something else, could it be as big as what I've achieved so far? And that would be a very big consideration. And obviously he's got a lot to cherish about what he's achieved with Red Bull, the organisation, from when they started to his departure.
Okay, we've got to talk about this. Horner also faced an investigation into allegations of inappropriate behaviour towards a female colleague in 2024. Now, Red Bull cleared him of any wrongdoing after an external investigation, but there are lots of factors that apparently led to him being sacked, because he was sacked, wasn't he?
I think the thing to make very clear here, to your point a moment ago, he's twice been cleared, as I understand it, when they've done, internal investigations and so on in relation to that. As we stand here now, there are many things to consider in what I and many others ultimately think led to his demise. And if you follow any of the very respected journalists that have been around the sport for a long time, many of them are documenting things that have happened as far back as October 2022. And that was when, tragically, one of the founders of the Red Bull drink company, Dietrich Mateschitz, passed away. There was a power shift in the wake of that. There's been some struggles around the direction, I guess you could say, of the race team and so on. Some really significant people like Adrian Newey, who is regarded as one of the greatest designers and engineers that Formula One has ever seen, and others around him have all departed the organisation. So the loss of those people is huge. As you and I talk here at the moment, Max has only won 2 races this season, Max Verstappen, who is regarded as the best driver on the grid. He is 69 points behind Australia's Oscar Piastri in the title race, and we're at the midpoint of the season. So I think they're talking like, well, our chances of winning either the Constructors' Championship, which a lot of money, a lot of prestige rides on, and the main thing all fans follow, the Drivers' Championship, the chances of Max doing that or Red Bull achieving that are nigh on impossible from this point. And has that triggered a clause in Max Verstappen's contract that would potentially, on a performance basis, allow him to leave? And if that has happened, it could well be that those further up the chain are worried about losing their star driver, and perhaps they've had to move. Perhaps those losses that I talked about on the engineering side, perhaps the performance where they're at the moment, and those performance markers, plus the political changes internally in the organisation. Maybe it's all of those things that have come to pass. And you could argue, Tash, 20 years. That's a very long time in the world in which we now live for any organisation, right? Maybe it was just time for a change.
So in regards to, I guess you mentioned there all of the reasons this could have happened, where does it leave Red Bull right now? Because if you lose someone of that experience, putting aside the allegations he faced beforehand, if you lose someone of that experience, where does it leave the team now?
They have moved Laurent Mekies, who is the boss of the sister organisation, if you will, what they call the RB team, which Daniel Ricciardo raced for until his time ended in Formula One. They've moved him from the team boss of that organisation into Christian's chair. So that's a good move. That sister squad has been performing very well, I think, at the moment. And he comes in well-credentialed, Laurent Mekies. Big shoes to fill, though. And at a time when you look at, I mean, the second driver to Max Verstappen, that seat is almost a poison chalice at the moment. Yuki Tsunoda's been in there. He's not having a great run. The poor Kiwi, Liam Lawson, did just 2 races at the beginning of the season before they rolled him. If you're in the pit lane and that drive came up, you would seriously consider not taking it. The prestige of going to Red Bull is a huge draw card, but so many have struggled and had problems there. So there's all of these factors. The loss of, significant engineering talent gone, a second driver that's struggling. Max can do some unbelievable things with that car to a point because he's fundamentally superhuman as a driver. But there are all of these things that need to be addressed and be fixed. They have got some good people. They'll probably need more, and this will be a rebuilding phase. It may not fix things straight away. And the kind of final part to the point here, Tash, and apologies if I'm going on too long, there is a big shift in the rules or the regulations next year for the cars. So this is happening at a paramount time. They've got a relationship they're about to launch into with Ford. Does it affect, because of all these departures, does it affect that? Will they be able to, in this new era, be a competitive force once again? You need all of the chess pieces to come together here, and I think there'll be one of two things. It'll either take a little while to rebuild, or are the fractures so significant? Can they come back from this?
Rusty, unpack that for us, because at the centre of all of this is apparently this friction and dispute that Max Verstappen and Christian Horner don't like each other and professionally have a fallout. Unpack what was behind that and how instrumental that has been to Christian Horner leaving his position.
There's, I think more than one actually, a group of people I think are calling it Team Verstappen, obviously, and that refers to his father. So, and Max, but his father, Jos Verstappen, was a former racer. His son Max has grown up around the sport. And as in terms of the comparison of their two CVs, Max has gone on to achieve greatness by comparison to what his dad did in the sport. But Jos is very active in the background. He's got a manager as well, Max. And there's been moments where journalists have reported seeing heated conversations and so on. So yeah, what impact Team Verstappen has had on this? Most, I think, feel like it's, that pressure perhaps from them has come to bear in this. He was very good, Max, in the way that he sort of farewell Christian, I think, very handled it very well. But clearly there's pressure that's come to bear here. He's a very competitive human being. I think some people misunderstand Max sometimes too. He's Dutch, and sometimes that frankness is misunderstood as rudeness. That often Dutch, when they're direct with you, my read on it is that's often them respecting you. The fact that they're prepared to speak straight with you is a form of respect. So he's a guy that wants to win races. I think if he feels the framework isn't there to do that, and they've perhaps dropped the ball in some ways, maybe things need to change. And perhaps, not perhaps, we're at that point now. But is it enough, as I said before, for him to stay loyal to Red Bull? They've done so much for him as a junior, created and opened so many doors in Formula One and beyond for him, really. So, yeah, let's see what the break is going to be very interesting, Tash. I think we're only just beginning with this story in some respects.
And Rusty, finally, where does this leave then all the drivers, all the massive players in Formula One? Because this is a huge shift. This is a huge loss, losing someone like Christian Horner. What happens from now? Well,
does it open the door for more change? So does Christian go somewhere else? Will we start to see This is about the time each year when you get confirmation of moves in the pit lane. I mean, if Max were to go to Mercedes, that means George Russell is most likely out of a drive because they've signed a young rookie in Kimi Antonelli and they see him as the future. So where does that leave George Russell? Where would he go? Who would take over from Max Verstappen at Red Bull? There's all of these permutations that could play out. There's been pressure on Fred Vasseur, who's the team boss at Ferrari in recent time too. Is his job secure now that they've got a powerhouse lineup there in Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc? Do they want to replace Fred Vasseur? Who would take over from them? There is potential here for a few dominoes, Tash, and more, I think, than we perhaps thought a few weeks ago.
What are the chances, Rusty, finally, that, of course, Christian joins his wife, Ginger, in a Spice Girls reunion?
I think that's very unlikely. I have seen, I think they have over the years when they've entertained some of the drivers and things. I think I've seen visions somewhere of Daniel Ricciardo and a few others singing around at the house there. So, I mean, to come back to it, no matter what you think of him, he's done some incredible things with that race team over time and been a figurehead that up until this past week has survived that piranha club that we talked about. And it is incredibly tough, that environment. So, yeah, it's a real line in the sand moment, not just for the Red Bull team, but for Formula One in some respects. And I don't think this will be the last time that you and I and lots of other news outlets will be talking about this story.
Watch this space, Rusty. We appreciate your time as always. Fabulous to chat.
Thanks, Tash.
That was Greg Rust, sports broadcaster and host of Listeners Rusty's Garage. And that's it for this episode of the afternoon edition of The Briefing. We'll be back tomorrow with the weekend briefing. And on tomorrow's episode, Antoinette is joined by Real Housewives star Chrissy Marsh.
Life's become pretty woke and you're only allowed to say certain things to certain people. And if someone's single or they don't have kids, they mightn't want to have kids. I'm never afraid to have difficult conversations with people. I do a lot of mentoring. I also look at myself. My self-talk is so good. When you get up and look in the mirror, are you looking for your faults? Are you looking for, I can wake up as ugly as sin and I look in the mirror and think I look beautiful.
We'd love you to subscribe or follow us on Instagram @The Briefing Podcast. I'm Natarsha Belling. See you next time.